So dear student, today we are going to tell about oxidation and reduction reactions. The oxidation and reduction reaction is one of the chemical reactions. You see, dear about oxidation and reduction reactions. In activity 1.11, heat a cyanide dish containing about 1 gram of copper powder. Copper powder means Cu, copper. The chemical symbol for copper is Cu. What do you observe? So what happened whenever we heated the copper powder in a cyanide dish containing copper powder here this is where gives that is tripod stand and it is burner. So whenever copper powder is heated, then what's been the brown colored copper will change into copper copper oxide, that is the black color copper 2 oxides. Okay, so what's happened whenever anything heated or burned, the oxygen add to that element or compounds. As copper powder, whenever copper powder is heated, also oxygen is added to copper and forming copper 2 oxide, CuO. This is CuO. So forming copper oxide, the color of which is blackish, that is black color. So why this copper, brown copper becomes black colored copper oxide? So what happens whenever oxygen reacts with copper in the heat? That what happens? It forms copper oxide. This is copper 2 oxide. Copper is the velocity 1 and 2. Here the copper is the velocity 2, copper 2 oxides. So the color of brown color copper changes to copper oxide, that is the color will be changed to black colors. Okay, this is brown color and this is black color. So what happens whenever copper reacts with oxygen? It forms copper 2 oxide, the color of which is black. So this is one type of reaction. You see, copper gets oxygen and form copper oxide. This reaction is known as oxidation reaction. So what happens in case of oxidations? We see mainly the oxygen is added to an element. Actually what's happened, the main conditions by which oxidation reaction occurs is of different types. That is, there are some other conditions in which oxidations may occur. Not only the gaining the oxygens, we can get the oxidation reactions, we can also get the oxidation reaction by other 5 conditions. So let's see what are the conditions. You see, so for oxidations, what's happen? So gaining of oxygen, if an element gained oxygen, then it will be oxidized. If it gain negative poly or mono polyatomic ion, that is, these are the negative polyatomic ion which about which you have read in the class 9, and this is chloride carbonate. So these are the negative polyatomic ions. If this polyatomic ion gains by any element, then what's happened? That element is oxidized. Okay, next go to the third point, reducing of hydrogen. If any of the substance reduce hydrogens or lose hydrogen, then the substance or the compounds become oxidized. Next, fourth point, reducing of electron. Reducing of electron means losing of electrons. Okay, if any compounds lose its electron, then the compounds will be oxidized. Next, the fifth point, that is the last point, reducing of positive poly or monoatomic ions. That is, these are the polyatomic these are the monoatomic ions which is positively charged, that is Mg2 plus Ca2 plus Alt plus. Okay, if this polyatomic ion or this monoatomic positive ion reduced from a substance, then it is called to be oxidized. So these are the 5 main conditions by which oxidation may occur: gaining of oxygen, gaining of negative poly or monoatomic ions, next reducing of hydrogen, next reducing of electrons, next reducing of positive atomic ions. Okay, so these are the main 5 conditions by which oxidation occurs, but there are only 2 points in your textbook to show the oxidation reaction, that is gaining of oxygen or reducing of hydrogens. Okay, now let's see the surface of copper powder becomes coated with black copper 2 oxide. Here this 2 oxide means copper has the valency 2. Why has this black substance formed? This black substance is formed due to the oxygen coating, because due to there is a copper. Whenever copper is heated, it gets the oxygen. That is why the copper oxide take the color blackish color. So this is because oxygen is added to copper and copper oxide is formed. Whenever copper oxide is formed from copper, then copper oxide gets the color black color. So next, copper plus oxygen, whenever it is heated, it forms copper oxide. If hydrogen gas is passed over this heated material, copper oxide, the black coating on the surface turn brown as the reverse reaction takes place and copper is obtained. Again, you see, if we pass hydrogen gas over the blackish copper oxide, then what's happen, and it is heated, then again the copper will lose oxygen and hydrogen will get oxygen. You see, in case of oxidation or reduction reaction, you must see the products. Okay, you see here, this is copper oxide, and whenever it becomes product, it becomes copper, that is copper oxide lose oxygen. That is why due to the losing of oxygen, the copper is what's happened, the copper oxide is reduced to form copper. Again, whenever hydrogen, this is reactant and this is product, whenever hydrogen gets oxygen, it forms water. Okay, so due to the gaining of hydrogen, it becomes oxidized. Again, I repeat it. So you see copper oxide, whenever copper oxide is heated, then what's happen, and the hydrogen gases passes over it, then what's happen, the copper oxide lose oxygen and form copper. That is why copper oxide is reduced. And again, you see, whenever hydrogen gets oxygen, it forms water. Due to the gaining of oxygen, hydrogen is oxidized. Okay, so if a substance, here you see, sorry, if a substance gain oxygen during a reaction, it's said to be oxidized. So whenever it get oxygen, it is called to be oxidized. Okay, if a substance loses oxygen during a reaction, it's said to be reduced. There is only 2 points, that is gaining of oxygen and losing of oxygen. Okay, but there are other 4 conditions also I have already told you, so remind that other conditions also. During this reaction, the copper 2 oxide is losing oxygen and is being reduced. The hydrogen is getting oxygen and is being oxidized. In other words, one reactant gets oxidized while the other gets reduced. You see, whenever copper oxide gets reduced by losing oxygen, at the same time, what's happened, hydrogen gets oxygen and it oxidizes. As we see, the oxidation and reduction reaction, copper oxide is reduced and hydrogen is oxidized. You see, in a chemical reactions, this oxidation and reduction reaction occurs simultaneously. That is why this type of reaction is also called as reduction reaction. Right? Oxidation reduction reaction. You see, one reactant get oxidized while the other gets reduced. Copper oxide get reduced, then hydrogen, at the same time hydrogen get oxidized. Okay, get reduced, and during a reaction, such reactions are called oxidation reduction reactions or redox reaction. Oxidation reduction, simply it is redox. So why it is called oxidation or reduction reaction? Because whenever oxidation reaction occurs simultaneously, reducing reaction is also occurs in a same reaction. That is why this type of reaction is also known as oxidation reduction or redox reaction. Okay, let's see the another example. Copper oxide, whenever heated, what's happened, it gets reduced to form copper, and whenever hydrogen is whenever the hydrogen is heated, then what's happened? It gets the oxygen from copper oxides. So hydrogen is oxidized to form water, and copper oxide is reduced to form copper. Okay, so oxidation and reduction reaction occur simultaneously. That is why this type of reaction is also known as oxidation or reduction reaction or redox reactions. Okay, next see the other examples. Some other examples of redox reactions are zinc oxide plus copper. You see here it is zinc oxide, but it is zinc. Here it is carbon, but in the product it is carbon monoxide. So zinc oxide reduced to form zinc, okay, by losing oxygens, and carbon forms carbon monoxide by getting oxygens. That is why zinc oxide will reduce and carbon will oxidize. Okay, so this is one type of oxidation and reduction reaction. So next see the another examples. Manganese dioxide plus HCl, which will form MnCl2, manganese chloride, water and chlorine. Here you see manganese loses oxygen forming manganese chloride. It is oxidation reactions. Okay, again HCl, here HCl forming chlorine. So chlorine loses hydrogen, that is why chlorine also oxidized. Okay, next hydrogen gets oxygen here, that is why hydrogen is oxidized. So actually what's happened, whenever MnO2 manganese dioxide form manganese chloride, according to the rule I have already told you. So manganese get the negative ion, that is why manganese dioxide is reduced. Okay, it is oxidized, not reduced, because whenever oxygen is gained or negative polyatomic or monoatomic ion is gained, then it is called oxidized. But as these rules are not in your textbook, so you should remind that whenever oxygen is lost, then what's happened? It will reduced, and whenever any elements will get oxygen, then it will be oxidized. So here MnO2 manganese dioxide is reduced by losing oxygen, and hydrogen get oxidized by taking oxygen. Okay, so it is oxidized, HCl is oxidized, and MnO2 is what is called reduced. Next, recall activity 1.1. So where magnesium ribbon burns with a dazzling flame in air and changes into a white substance, magnesium oxide, is magnesium being oxidized or reduced in this reaction? So whenever magnesium ribbon is burned, then what's happened? Magnesium ribbon is burned, it forms MgO. Okay, so as the magnesium gets the oxygen, that is why magnesium will oxidize. I have already told you about this reaction, so I don't like to write it in the book, that is notebook. So as the magnesium gets the oxygen, magnesium Mg plus, I write it on my textbook, but you don't do so, MgO. Okay, as magnesium gets the oxygen, that is why it will be the burning of magnesium ribbon will be a oxidation reactions. Okay, so it will get oxygen and forming magnesium oxide, so magnesium is oxidized. Okay, next, have you observed the effects of oxidation reaction in everyday life? Actually what's happened, oxidation reaction is a chemical reaction in which what's happened, most of the metal become corroded. So most of the metal is corroded, like iron. So what's happened, you see, have you observed the effects of oxidation reaction in everyday life? Corrosions. So what is corrosions? You must have observed that iron particles are shiny when new, but when coated with reddish brown powder, when left for some time, this process is continuously known as rusting of iron. So about the rusting of iron, I have already told you in the first chapter, that is the first page. So what's happened, whenever iron is oxidized, it will form iron trioxide or ferric oxide or Fe2O3, which is the product which is the chemical product of rust or rusting. So what's happened whenever rusting is occurred, the iron become corroded. So rusting materials, what's happened, gets away from the iron surface. As a result, the the iron reduce their shape. So this is called the corrosion of iron. Some other materials also get tarnished in these metals. Have you noticed that the color of the coating formed on copper and silver? So what's happened whenever color copper is oxidized, then what's happened, it forms a layer of copper carbonates. So copper carbonates, so it forms a layer of copper carbonates and forming and thus it corroded. So what is the symbol for copper carbonate? That is, copper gets copper carbonate. Okay, the color of which is green color. So you see, whenever copper carbonate is formed over a copper metal, then there is a green color, which is nothing but the layer of the copper carbonates, which begin to corrode the copper metals. Again, what's happened in the silver, and the silver ornaments or silver particles, what's happened, a silver sulfide layer is formed, right? The color of which is black. This is black color. Okay, so this silver sulfide layer will what will happen, a layer will corrode the silver materials, and copper carbonate will corrode the copper materials. That is why this is one type of oxidation reactions also. This is one type of reactions for which was happen, the silver particles and the copper particles get corroded. Again, you see, when a metal is attacked by substances around in such a moisture, acid, etc., it is said to corrode, and this process is called corrosion. So you should underline it, and you should write a question: what is corrosion? What is corrosion? What is the effect of corrosion? So I repeat the question: what is corrosion? What is the effect of corrosions? So you should write the question as well as answer from these lines. The black coating on silver and the green coating on copper are other examples of corrosion. So whenever, I have already told you that whenever silver metals is corroded, it forms silver sulfide, which is a black colored substance, and it begins to corrode the silver metals. Again, the green coating of copper, also a substance which can corrode the copper metals. Okay, so this is the question about the corrosions, and you should write this question and answers. So corrosion causes damage to car bodies, bridges, iron railings, ships, and to all objects made of metals, especially those of iron. Corrosion of iron is a serious problem. Every year an enormous amount of money is spent to replace damaged iron. You will learn more about the corrosion in chapter 3. So this is about the corrosions, and let's go to the next topic, that is rancidity. So what is rancidity? Have you ever tasted or smelled the fat oil containing food materials left for a long time? So whenever you left for a long time your food, then what's happened? The taste as well as the odor becomes sense. Smell of the food substance becomes sense. So in the hot summer day, what's happened? The food which is cooked earlier in the morning will not be same at the evening. So it gets it gets rancid. So when what is the rancidity or rancid? So what's happened, whenever the oil parts of the food materials get oxidized, then the taste as well as smell of the food becomes sense. This condition is called rancidity. Okay, so let's see. When fats and oils are oxidized, they become rancid and their smell and taste change. Okay, so usually substances which prevent oxidation, antioxidants, these are called antioxidants, are added to food containing fats and oils. So there are so many antioxidants butylated BTA and BTA. There is one type of antioxidant. So there are so many types of oxidant and antioxidant which is used in our food to reduce the oxidations. Actually, we cannot stop the oxidation. We can delay the rancidity by applying some substances which is called antioxidant. Okay, so next are added to food containing fats and oil. Keeping food in air tight container help to slow down the oxidation. Slow down, this is slow down, not to we cannot able to stop the oxidation. Okay, we can slow down the oxidation. Do you know that ships manufacturers usually flush bags of ships with gas such as nitrogen to prevent the ships from getting oxidized? So what's happened in case of ships and such type of food materials which is actually packed by the nitrogen gas? So whenever this is packed by the nitrogen gas, what's happened? The food particles becomes dry. Food particles don't get moisture, as well as it it left for many days. So what's happened if we add such type of gas within the packet? Then what's happened? The rate of oxidation becomes slow. Okay, that is why the food conditions remain same for several days. This is all about rancidity. And in the next class, I would like to discuss about the questions and answers exercise. So be ready to write all the question answers, and I will give all the question answers, and you should note it, and later you have to send it in my WhatsApps so that I can check it. Okay, so let's go to the next question. And I would like to tell you about the first stanza question. That is the first stanza was oxidation and reduction reaction. So write some questions. So what is oxidation and reduction reaction? What is oxidation and reduction reaction? Give example for each. What is oxidation and reduction reaction? Give example for each. That is, you say there is copper. Whenever copper is heated, it forms copper oxide. Whenever copper oxide whenever over the copper oxide hydrogen gas is passed and heat is given, then what's happened? It reduced to copper oxide, reduced to copper, and hydrogen gets oxidized. Such type of examples are available in your textbook, so you may write from your textbook. So question is, what is oxidation or reduction reaction? Give appropriate examples. Okay, so write these questions and send me on my WhatsApp. I will check it, and bye.